The body, if it doesn't know how to process emotions, which can be, traumatic events, or just like difficult emotions, it tends to store them. And unfortunately, that stored information, if not cleared properly, can, in the worst cases, cause physical and mental distress.
Welcome to the Multiple Truths podcast. We're your hosts, Holly
and Brittany. This is a space where we can come together healing in community, where we share our self-love journeys, insights, and wisdom.
A space with no hierarchy or judgment, fostering love, compassion, and respect, and where we honor our differences. With open minds and hearts, everyone's truth is welcome here. We are in this together. Let's dive into the episode.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. You are here with Brittany today, and I'm really excited to introduce you to my guest today. We have Ludovica coming on with us today, and she's actually a dear friend of mine. I met her when I was in Texas for a women's retreat, and she was one of the first people that talked to me. She made me feel so welcomed. She's super sweet. We're going to get into somatic healing because this is what she does. She does somatic healing. And, on this podcast, we do often talk about different healing modalities. So I, asked her to come on the podcast, and I'll introduce her in a moment. But before I do, I hope you're getting cozy. I hope you're getting comfy. I hope you have your coffee, your tea. I think this episode is airing on mid-May, like mid-May 14th or something like that. I'm looking at the date and it's March 26th. So I'm still in this apartment, you guys. If I'm moving, if you've been listening to the podcast, and I moved if you're watching the video, I'm still in this apartment, but at the release, at the date, at the time that this episode is released, I will be moved. I will be in my new home. I will be back from Peru. I will be 2 weeks into my new home, so stay tuned for that. This is like Brittany from the past right now coming through. It's like Brittany from the past, speaking to Brittany in the future. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Are you settled? Are you feeling good? Are you overwhelmed? Moving is a lot. It's also I literally come back from Peru and the next day I move, you guys. It is. I'm holy shitballs. I've got a lot of stuff to organize. But yeah, that's currently what's going on with me. Holly and I are also hosting our first women's retreat, at the end of June. So we're definitely preparing for that. We've been preparing for that. And I know, at the time this is out, I'm sure we're going to be preparing. I think Holly's going to be visiting me at around this time too, which is exciting, to really, prepare for the retreat and get everything in order and film more episodes. Anyways, back to the topic of today's conversation. Let's introduce Ludovica. Ludovica is a somatic fitness coach and climate justice advocate who helps people reconnect with their bodies and find calm through somatic healing. Her work blends movement, nervous system regulation, and deep mind-body awareness. She also uses mantras. In this episode, we dive into the power of somatics, what it really means to feel safe in your body, and how this kind of work can create lasting transformation. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce you to my dear friend, Ludovica. Hey girl, we got my cat coming to say hello, but let's dive into the episode. Hello, Ludovica. Thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm so happy to be here. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm excited to have you. For those watching, my cat is going a little crazy at the moment. So if you see me just looking off to the side, hopefully she settles down for this conversation. I was just telling Ludovica, I was why? I have my little angel behind us who's nice and calm and, is not a problem. And then I have my little maniac that's oh, it's recording time, Brittany. Okay. That means it's time to turn on my gears and go crazy.
Yep.
It's always that way. Anyways. That aside, I just wanted to give a little warning because she's literally testing me right now. But let's dive into what we're going to be talking about today. So I obviously did the little introduction about you and what you do. So for those listening, I would love to how would you explain somatic healing for people who might not know what that is at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, somatic means of the body. So I always like to start with that because I feel that especially recently, we've been in the past, maybe 5 years or so, it's a term that is coming up a lot. And in all of my, at least, yes, I will say in all of my classes, I always get at least one person who asks me, but what is somatic healing? So so you're not alone if you don't know, but somatic healing means of the body, and it's essentially an umbrella term to really like specify a healing method that can be accessible through your own body. So that can be, for example, breath work, moving the energy stored in the body. As we know, the body keeps the score through breath work, through EFT tapping. EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. So maybe if you've seen on social media people going like this or like that, or maybe you're super familiar, that's another somatic healing modality. Dance can be a ecstatic movement modality. And really the focus of somatic healing is what I was saying, being able to move energy from the body outside the body. Why? Because the body, if it doesn't know how to process emotions, which can be, traumatic events, or just like difficult emotions, it tends to store them. And unfortunately, that stored information, if not cleared properly, can, in the worst cases, cause physical and mental distress. And so, somatic healing is something that I am personally really passionate about because it truly helped change my life, and the life of the people that really have been working with and encountering. And it's often explains those symptoms that no doctor knows how to identify. I'm sure there's some people in the room, in our virtual room, that might have gone to the doctor with all of these symptoms, and all of their tests come out normal, especially
Right.
like in Western medicine. And
Mm-hmm.
often, not always, obviously, like, you know listen to your medical team. There is a stored energetic challenge in the body, and that's where somatic healing comes in.
Mm, I love that. I think that's beautiful. I always say I definitely think there's time and place for Western medicine. With that said, I feel like, there's so much that I don't know, there's so much more, right? It's like, what's the deeper rooted cause of said issue? And it ties back to like the body knows the score. It ties back to the body. We suppress, I feel, so much unconsciously. So I think that, yeah, that's beautiful. It's a way to help get into the body and help release some of the stored energy, anything that really does need to be released. I'm curious because with what you do specifically, because you teach this as well, right? Like you have clients, you have like groups of women, I know. And I feel like with what you do, you incorporate somatic healing with a few other components as well, which
Mhm.
I think is beautiful and fascinating. If you don't mind talking about what exactly you do, and I guess the benefit of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in my case, a somatic healing really came about through a journey of being confused about all of these health issues that I was experiencing, and so I just like stumbled upon mindfulness first 10 years ago, and that really like opened up the door for me as like the first person in my family who like learned how to like meditate and how to like be, like calm my nervous system down like on my own. It opened up a door for these other methods such as breath work, EFT, so tapping, and I've always been like truly fascinated by the fact that yes, I was going to therapy, and absolutely I was also, in care of Western doctors, because everything complements each other. But I was
Mhm.
so fascinated that a person with high sensitivity like me was able to truly like come back to the present moment and calm down by only practicing very short even
Mm,
exercises
mhm,
that I could do anywhere. I grew up in New York City, even though I'm from Italy, and I used to feel like always extremely triggered by the crowds. And, you know, I'm the first migrant in the US from Italy in my family. And so I had this very much go, 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 hustler,
mm,
immigrant mindset. And I realized that I was truly like struggling. And that's what brought me to really dive into this somatic healing methods. So I'm kind of like portraying like a timeline because I do
mhm,
believe that it is important for us in this journey of healing to be curious and experiment with different tools.
mm,
So for
mm,
me, after the mindfulness, the meditation, came the breath work, and then the EFT, specifically during COVID. And during that time, I felt called to become a Reiki practitioner. So that opened up a
mm,
whole other door. Traditional Reiki, from the founders, and in Japan, because tradition is truly important to me.
mhm,
And eventually, after that, I figured that really in these exercises, so the FT, the mindfulness, the meditation, the breath work, I felt like my body was restless. So I eventually just started doing somatic healing, including movement, like on my own. And the universe eventually brought me to this program called Somatic Activity Healing Method, that was essentially created by this Brazilian spiritual guide, Sada Simon, who brought together all of these ancient practices, blend them
mhm,
together with movement. So the
mm.
mindfulness and the work on the breath paired together with movement. And my mind completely, like, I had a huge haha moment. It was
Wow.
an immediate yes, absolutely,
Mhm,
this is for me. And that's how I started becoming like a somatic healing practitioner. But since I was also, interested in fitness, and in EFT and in Reiki, which are things that are not part of this method, the somatic activity healing method, we'll call it SA for short, SAH. I eventually just blended these techniques together, and I now teach them both privately and in person. I am currently on Mikosuki and Seminole Land in the United States, also known as Miami. Um, and I truly, like, my focus is to support people with like getting to know their energetic body and their physical body by literally just using simple techniques. I think that healing should be accessible, and
mhm,
that is really my goal, to support people with these different tools that they can use in different occasions. Because, as you know, sometimes if you're traveling, maybe you might be feeling more called to a meditation versus maybe like a
mhm.
5 minute meditation versus like a 30-minute meditation. Or maybe you,
Right.
you you feel like you don't have the time, so maybe
Mhm.
you just like tap when you're on the train. I do this all the time, even when I'm in Zoom. So if I do it today, that's why. And so I think that what I hear a lot is people just like seeing these tools like mindfulness and somatic healing and all of this beautiful medicine sometimes as far away from them, because it seems like very complicated. It seems like I
Mhm,
need to be I need to have like a 2 hour in the morning for my morning routine, which is wonderful if you have it, amazing,
mhm.
but not everyone does. And so
Yeah.
that's really when I think it's important to have access to different tools that you can use depending on your situation.
I love that. I love how you use these different tools, these different modalities, and kind of combine them. I think that's super, super powerful.
And I love that you mentioned too, because I always say, like, if you have your morning routine or whatever it may be, it's more than just checking off boxes on a list. You know what I'm saying? And life is
Hmm.
life. People are busy. People have kids. We don't always have these a large amount of time in our day, depending, the season of life that you're in, to do all of the things, for lack of a better word. So I just love the idea. I love how you mentioned, feel like you mentioned this earlier, how when you started with the somatic healing, you were in shock at how quick you were able to like calm your nervous system down. Do you want to talk more about that? Like just the, I don't know, just like the small amount of time that it takes, if that even makes sense, because that just kind of like
Yeah.
stood out to me. I feel like that's important for people to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely do want to mention that obviously, like, depending on what you're going through, a short practice can definitely bring you relief. And also, maybe you practice the small practices several times throughout the day. So even if it's
Mm,
like 5 minutes twice a day, it can be really helpful depending on where you're at. Because obviously, as you said, life is complex. We have a lot of things
mhm.
going on. I know that for my moms in the room, I mean, for some beautiful reason, I've been attracting a lot of like moms to be and mothers in my
Aw.
circle, and they're so inspirational to me because they tell me, like the fact that you can you have offered, right, like these tools that like are short, even if my kid comes into the room and like
Mm,
distracts me, then I can go back to it, and like I don't have to have necessarily like a whole hour or like 30 minutes to do it.
mm,
And so the nervous system is actually, I mean, it's like so smart. At the end
mhm,
of the day, the brain's job is to protect us.
mhm,
So whether if you're triggered, you go into a freeze response, fawn, flight, or fight, which are the main, protective mechanisms of the
mhm,
brain, by truly like grounding yourself through meditation, somatic movement, EFT tapping, breath work, usually in general throughout the spectrum of techniques, it takes about like 45 seconds for the brain to start releasing the chemicals that are connected to happiness, to wellness, like
Wow.
serotonin and dopamine. And so it's truly fascinating. I mean, I'm a
Mhm.
nerd at heart, okay?
Oh, I love
So
that.
I'm really fascinated about the process of the brain and how it actually can be like quick for these chemicals to be released so that we can find comfort again. And an
Mm,
example of this is, for example, shaking. Like literally like just shaking your body.
mhm,
It can be just your hands, it can be your feet. You can have a
mhm,
full body shake, whatever feels comfortable in your body. Science shows us that after 35 to 45 seconds of shaking even just one body part, the brain
mhm.
starts releasing these happy chemicals. I call them
Wow.
happy chemicals. And it's just so fascinating. And if you think about it, animals do this all the time. Like you have
Mhm,
cats, I have a
mhm,
dog here. You know how they shake sometimes after they meet? For example, I mean, I bring my dog out. I don't know if you walk your cats, but for dogs, they do that when they meet other dogs. They like
mhm,
shake afterwards most times, or if they get scared, they might shake afterwards. That is a very quick and primal way to
mhm.
calm their nervous system down. That's why they do this.
Wow.
And so that is just like one example of that. And I feel that like once we break it down and we really like look at how the brain works, and it's connected to the body, of course, and to
Mhm.
spirit as well, it just makes it so much more tangible for people to actually say, okay, well, I'm going to try this.
I'm gonna give it a go. I love that. I love that example. I think that is so interesting, and it just makes me think too. Like when I was a kid, I used to like do this like shake all the time, but my
Mm,
parents were like, Brittany, what are you doing? Like I was like called out on it almost. And I felt, and then it made me feel really weird about it. So I stopped doing it. Anyways,
mm,
but yeah, like dance is coming to mind too, right? It just makes me feel like that's why like having a dance party in the morning can just completely shift your entire mood. It's something that I love to start my mornings off with. Not every day, depends on the mood I'm in, but
yeah.
a good chunk of the time I'm like, okay, after I do my thing, I'm like, time for some music, and I like to like move my body. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I would love to ask you about your intuitive fitness journey. I've
Mm,
been open about this on the podcast. I know Holly has talked about this as well, just about our eating disorders and just everything that the audience is familiar with it. Our eating
mm-hmm.
disorders and stuff like that. And I think being intuitive when it comes to fitness is super important. So I would just love your perspective, your journey, anything that you have to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just very quickly before we jump into that, once you like mention your story about like you like shaking like as a kid, something
Mm-hmm.
that came to mind is another thing that is pretty similar. You know how a lot of people like shake their leg sometimes like they don't
Oh,
control
I
it.
do that actually all the time. It's like when I'm
Yeah,
sitting, you just like go like this.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I have that too. And I
Mhm.
used to be told by my parents, please don't do that. Like, like that's
Mm.
distracting, don't do it. Okay. It's something that often we don't control. It's just like it's our
Right.
body does its thing. And I always saw it as a sign of anxiety. I always like
Mm-hmm.
put myself under this umbrella term of like I'm highly sensitive, I have anxiety. Okay, I learned through the studies of somatic healing that that is actually a natural response of the body to like calm the nervous system down. It's the same principle of shaking.
Yeah.
So actually like saying to someone like please don't do that, it's like counterproductive to their nervous system
Right.
regulation.
Right.
Not to
Mm.
put the blame, on my parents or on your parents or anyone,
Yeah.
listening who might have like told someone like please don't do that, that makes me nervous, because I get it,
Yeah.
like because then we
Yeah.
get we start shaking too. But it's actually like a sign of how the
Yeah.
body is so smart and does its thing if we
Mm.
let it.
If
So I
we
just
let
wanted
it.
to put it put
Yeah,
it
no,
um,
thank you for saying that. It's like, well, it's a form of self-regulation, which I think,
yeah.
like you were saying before, the brain just we're so just our bodies are so intelligent, but I feel like the mind gets in the way. You know what I mean? The mind often gets in the way. So
Oh yes.
when we're able to let go, it's like the body really does know how to heal itself, which I think is super powerful. And
Mm,
we're starting to learn again more about these healing modalities, or I should say relearn, because none of this stuff is new, right? It's ancient, and we it got
absolutely.
lost it got
Yes.
lost with everything, and we're relearning essentially. So yeah, no, I love that. It just kind of like, I don't know why I think it's cute. Like, why is it cute that humans do that?
It is cute. We're
It's kind of cute, right? Like, I
yeah.
don't know why that's coming to mind. um but
Hmm.
back to what I was saying before, many people
Yeah.
have um, a complicated relationship with fitness due to societal pressures, X, Y, and Z. So, how did you
Yeah.
shift toward more intuitive and a body positive approach?
Hmm. I love this question so much because I'm so passionate about this topic.
Mm.
Okay, so the I got into intuitive fitness actually through a long period of time where I experienced an eating disorder myself. I was stuck in this eating disorder for about 10 years. And really, once I started learning about mindfulness, that was part of my healing journey for my ED. So even though it took me quite some time, I can look back now and say, okay, well, that was my path. And even though I struggled a lot with that, right now I'm on the completely opposite side. And I was able to get through that through this journey that I kind of walked you guys at the beginning through starting with mindfulness and then the breath work and then the EFT. The EFT goes very well hand in hand with mantras, also known as affirmations. And by implementing these tools, I actually like started recognizing that in my fitness journey, for the very beginning and the majority of, the first phase of my fitness journey, I was talking like mean to myself, like during
Mm.
my workouts. I was working out for the wrong reason. Like I was working out because of what society, usually like brainstorm us with. You need to burn the calories. And I really just don't want this to be like triggering to anyone. But I just want to let you know that once you start recognizing how you talk to yourself during your workouts and actually like recognizing why am I going for a workout, why am I engaging in this
Right.
kind of exercise, is it
Mm-hmm.
something that I love? That is huge. And
Mm-hmm.
so throughout my teachings of somatic healing, I really started shifting the approach that I had to my fitness routine. Because once you practice like somatic healing, often like somatic movement, you start moving in ways that are beneficial to the body. Like you start becoming more aware of not only how you talk to yourself, but also, does this movement feel good? Is
Mm.
this something fun? So I created the intuitive fitness method because I essentially started mixing the two worlds, the somatic healing with the fitness. And I've seen on myself that by engaging in exercises and activities that I love, and actually giving myself a break, for example, like during my cycle, and
Mm.
being respectful to my body and to my hormones, even like eating what felt good, like not being restricted, I actually achieved the physical results that I was like, taught that I needed to achieve from a young
Right.
age,
Mm-hmm.
literally in like without trying.
Mm.
After I dumped all of those restrictive eating habits and all of those like extreme workouts that that we see online, often like one approach fits all,
Mm-hmm.
intuitive fitness is completely different because we pair what you actually like to do. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's dance, maybe it's dance, hockey, weightlifting, like you can do it all and have it
Mm-hmm.
as part of your fitness routine. And I like to include also mantras, like ways to redirect your thoughts in case you fall down into the negative thought pattern. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
healing is not linear, so
Right.
I always want to recognize that and bring and and support people with that. Like even myself, like I always like practice this, like even now that I don't struggle with my body image and I don't struggle with my eating. And so it's really like a 360 approach where we, you know, don't let the shadow side, I call it, of the fitness industry take over, because honestly, as just like the diets, like that's a whole other thing, but they're connected, that are really like built for you to like keep on coming back. Like you lose the weight and then you leave the diet and then it's like, oh, the weight is back. Intuitive fitness is not about necessarily the aesthetic, it's about how do you feel, because once you get into a fitness routine and an eating routine that feels good to you, that is actually like healthy to you, that's when the physical results come in, but overall your health becomes better. And that is really the key, because if you don't have your health, then what are you going to do with a cute booty? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can even
I
maintain it.
Yeah. And that's, I shouldn't laugh at that, like that's funny, but the way you said that, like, yeah, exactly, what are you going to
True.
do with your health? Like, you could have a cute booty, but what does that, yeah. Looking to connect with like-minded community on your journey of self-growth, self-love, and spiritual discovery? Join the Beehive, a supportive community hosted by Holly and I, designed to help you on your personal transformation and healing journey, and to help you tap into your innate wisdom. With live monthly Q&A sessions, exclusive content, and a like-minded community, the Beehive is the perfect space to grow and step into your most authentic self. For more information and to sign up, check the link in the show notes. I myself was stuck in that for a really long time, and I've been open about this on my channel. Like, I used to do bikini competitions, and it was really coming from a place of lack within self. It was coming from, it was under the guise of self-love, like, oh, I'm doing this because it's like healthy, when really it was like self-hatred. It's like I felt like I needed to be a certain way, I needed to look a certain way, otherwise I wasn't worthy of love, I wasn't worthy of acceptance, X, Y, and Z. And that obviously really shifted for me as time has went on. Oh, we got my little cat coming to say hi here. I have my other one now on my lap on the side of me. They're like dying for my attention today. But
Mm,
for me personally, it's like what I love now. It's like I do Pilates. I haven't stepped foot in a gym in a long time, if I'm being completely transparent. And it's just like I can't get myself to. And maybe if I
mm,
find my way back there one day, I will. I used to love weight training, but I feel like with my competitions and stuff, I spend way too much time at the gym and just not a great headspace. But
mm.
I love going out for walks. I love Pilates. I do kickboxing, even little home workouts, stuff like that. And
Yeah,
it changes from day to day. Like, I love how you said too, um like when you shifted your perspective, because a lot of people associate exercise too with like punishment for
yeah,
like going out to eat, or like I'm only let's say I'm going out to eat tonight, in order for me to earn this meal, like I have to go to the gym or whatever it may be. um I'm curious, what would you say, like, how can people shift their mindset to a more loving and sustainable relationship with movement?
mm. So I truly like feel called to like start by saying that like you're so loved and seen, and if this is like triggering like at all, listen to that because it has information. Okay. um I am very much aware that this is like a journey because as I said, I was really like stuck in it for about 10 years. And what I would say to people who feel stuck, in my experience, what truly helped me was, first of all, to seek help. And that can mean different things to you. Me, I tried different ways to see like what was actually helpful. So I started working with a talk therapist. Eventually, that wasn't like enough for me. I still felt this like this energetic blockages within me that like sure it everything made sense when I would like speak to the therapist with talk therapy and everything, but I was still carrying like so much weight in the body, like not necessarily like physical weight, but I still felt that I needed something else, something more tangible. And that's how I went into like mindfulness and somatic healing. Learning about how the brain works is really what made the trick for me. Like everything shifted once I learned, oh, okay, well, I have a tendency of talking negatively to myself, and I believe in the stories that I have to earn my neat meals, I have to look a certain way, because actually, when I was a child, that's all I was hearing in my environment. And until age 7, our brains like suck are like sponges, and we take everything as true. And I say unfortunately, but that was my journey, and really I'm grateful for it, even though it was really painful. I grew up in an environment where like people were constantly talking about diets and how they really like didn't like their bodies. And it was truly like not the best environment for, a young girl like growing up, right? But I know we share the story, and as a society, and this is not to blame it on, our mothers, our sisters, or our community, but it is an opportunity to recognize, okay, this is the pattern. My brain is so smart because it really just like did its job and it took in this information as true. That was its job. It did a perfect job. Now, is this helpful to me? No. Okay, how do I change it? Like taking empowered action for me, once I understood how the brain worked,
Mm,
truly is what made things click. It helped me recognize that there actually wasn't anything wrong with me. I was
mm,
struggling so much and giving myself all of this blame of like, why doesn't this work? I'm going to therapy and like I'm still having trouble with like binge eating and restriction. And truly, that was the first step.
mm,
um, so, if there's anyone who's like struggling with that, I would say start practicing somatic healing if you can. Like you can literally rewrite your nervous system with mantras, with EFT, with the tapping, while you practice like these mantras and these affirmations.
mm,
And there's lots of videos on YouTube. You can also, like, obviously I'm happy to support people with this. I started with free videos on YouTube and then just like found my way to practitioners that spoke
mm,
to me. So there's definitely information out there. And something else that I do want to mention that was like the next step for me, it was leaning into intuitive eating.
mm,
And I do know that there's often a lot of like confusion around intuitive eating because, there's people who have like medical conditions who are like, oh, but I can't eat intuitively because then it will affect my health. Absolutely. That intuitive eating doesn't mean that you're just gonna eat things that are harmful to you, but it is an approach that truly has helped me with dismantling those ideas of good food versus bad food and
mm,
counting macros, counting calories. It's it's a proven approach that is really based on mindfulness, so
mhm,
that you start seeing like really food as gifts, as energy out, as energy intake, not
mm,
as this demonized, like, no, you need to stay away, like you can't have this, you can't have that. Obviously,
mhm,
always listen to your medical team. um, but intuitive eating was truly like what helped me. Like, I
mm.
honestly just swear by it, and
Yeah.
it's made truly like a big difference for me. And it goes like hand in hand with the mindfulness, the intuitive fitness. um, if you're curious, there's if you like type intuitive eating, the 10 principles of intuitive eating, you will get a list. If you just like put it in Google, and it like gives you a lot of nice interesting like articles. So just in case people like want to like peek on that, the 10 principles of intuitive eating, it's probably like where you want to start in case you're like not familiar with it.
I love that. I love a lot of what you touched on there. For the first thing I want to touch on is how it's like really understanding the mind and how intelligent the
Mm.
brain is, and it's like it did its job. It learned, it was a sponge, and it soaked up all that information. Um but it didn't necessarily know at the time that that information was incorrect, right? It soaked it up as truth. So it's like once you're aware of the programming, I feel like is so powerful. It's like once you're aware of it, then you can start unlearning and relearning. But if you're listening, it starts with the awareness, but it takes time to actually like unlearn and relearn. It requires patience, the rewiring of like the subconscious, and that just ties into so many different things. And with food, right, it's like a lot of people, I feel, fear food. I actually had somebody else on here a bit ago now, Tara, a functional health practitioner, and we were talking
Mhm.
about food and how, people fear food and stuff like that. And what she said really stuck with me. She goes, there's actually no such thing as like good food or bad food, because a lot of people get like caught up in that and they get fearful of like, oh, I can't have this bad food or whatever. She goes, but there is such thing as like food and non-food, like things that are just like not actually food that's put into our foods. And you know what I'm saying? And we're
Yeah.
consuming. And that's more so, it's like what you were saying. If you're fueling your body with nutrition, with stuff that feels good for you, real foods, and that doesn't mean not to indulge once in a while, because that's another thing too. I know I was stuck in this for a long time. I remember being afraid to like go. I couldn't even go out to eat with my friends because I didn't know exactly the macros, like the macronutrients. I needed to know the calories, the protein, the carb, the fat. I needed to know everything because I tracked everything obsessively. I
Mhm.
remember like I wouldn't even take like a taste of somebody else's food because I'm like, oh, I don't know like what's in that. I need to know like how much is in that. And it's like the fear is just so, so, so real. And it's it's a challenge, for those listening. If you're stuck in that mentality, be patient with yourself, have compassion for yourself as you unlearn and relearn. And because I know, like for me personally, and this is just talking about personal experience, to eat intuitively would have been so. I wouldn't have been able to have done it like way back when, because I was in so much fear that I would like intuitive eating to me was just not. Does that even make sense? Because I'm like, how do I do that? I don't know. I need to know what the calories are. I need to know this. I need to know
Yeah.
that. And I'm at a place now where I can intuitively eat, but it took a very long time to get there. Even when I first started intuitive eating, and I'm going to use quotations when I say that,
Mhm.
because I got so good at just looking at a meal and being able to quite accurately guess the macros in it, just because I counted for so long, that I would
Mhm.
still do it a little bit. Like I wouldn't be weighing it out, but I'd like kind of like add it up in my head and be like, okay, yeah, I'm intuitive eating, when really I was still, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
calculating it in the mind. Um, I don't know if you have anything to say about that. I guess my point with that
Mhm.
is like for some people, intuitive eating might feel so out of their reach,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Um, so I'm curious if you have anything to say to that, for if anybody listening might be in that sort of a situation.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, that was like actually the last step to
Mm,
healing my eating disorder. So I do absolutely like emphasize with that, because for me, it was mainly first I had to learn how the brain worked. There was
mm,
this I during the last phase of my ED, I was struggling a lot with binge eating. It was like actually like like a big problem, and I, was able to break that pattern by learning how the brain works. I
mm.
read this book called brain over brain over binge, brain over
Oh.
binge. And I told you guys I'm a nerd, but that book explains so well, and it's an easy read. It's not like highly
Mm,
scientific, um, but it explains so well. It's by this doctor who actually like had herself like an eating disorder and was stuck into binge eating, and she then went to like learning how the brain worked and put it like in a very tangible way into this book. And I'm so grateful that I stumbled upon this book, because I really like nothing else worked. And once I learned, okay, like that's why like my brain like is telling me that I need to eat. It was all about learning the pattern, like what we were talking
mm,
about. It was a lot about fear of like scarcity of food, which is also like very primal. Like she goes into that, like that
mm,
sensation of like I need to, you know, get all of this food in, because then I know that if you have an ED, then I'm not going to have food for a very long time. So once
mm,
again, it's the brain like preparing for the time where you're going to potentially restrict your food intake. And so
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's really all about like going back into our primal instinct. Like that's
Wow.
also why we also, we some people fly, some people fight, some people
Hmm.
freeze when they perceive danger. Like that is really connected to like how our ancestors used to, react when there was a danger.
Right.
And so for me, and I'm getting goosebumps now, oof, that was really key. That for me, in my particular journey, that was key.
Mhm.
And then once I learned that, I got very curious about, okay, so like, how can I reprogram my brain then? And that's when somatic healing came into play.
Mm.
And as a consequence, I went into intuitive fitness, and I found out, I was like, wait, but I still love food.
Yeah.
There's more work to be doing here. And I stumbled
Mhm.
upon intuitive eating,
Mm.
which is a book if people are feeling called to learn it, to read it and learn the principles. And I just essentially, after that, I truly realized like, okay, like this is how it was always supposed to be,
Mhm.
you know
Yeah, no, I love that, and I just brain over binge.
binge.
Is that what you said? I
Yeah.
think that I had chills as you were talking about that. Like, ooh, I struggled with binging as well, and it's just so I find this conversation fascinating, just like really understanding the brain, how primal these things are, because I know like when I was really in my cycle of these cycles of binging, it's like what where is this coming from, and when
Yeah.
you restrict so much. And through my healing journey too, I also came to realize that I would binge to kind of feel so uncomfortable in my body, to so that I was shoving things down as a result of feeling uncomfortable in my body, because that's all I could focus on was the discomfort. That way, the other problems were not there anymore, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
there's layers and whatnot to these things, but it's just so interesting, like, yeah, that how primal it is, because I too would restrict during the day, right? And then that primal instinct kicks in. It's like, okay, time to like eat, 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 to the point where it's like you can't, like, I couldn't stop myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, I know that a lot of us share this same story. I know it's like a collective story. I want to say especially with women, but men and women, of course, everybody. Um, yeah, these books sound. I'll definitely maybe like have those links, the books linked in the description below. Brain over binge, just
Yeah.
for those like listening, if you're interested in checking that out, because I feel like that would be a super
Yeah.
good read for somebody who might be struggling with this currently.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm curious, if someone listening today wants to start their journey toward more intuitive and joyful movement, what's the
Mm-hmm.
first step that you would recommend?
The first step I would recommend, I know this might be maybe a little challenging at first, but hear me out.
Mhm.
I would recommend unsubscribing from the idea that the workouts that you see, for example, on social media, that same workout works greatly for your body, because that might not be the case. Most times it's not the case. So first step is recognizing that movement needs to be something that you enjoy. So what are the type of movements that you
Mhm.
enjoy? Is it walking? Is it dancing? It can be more than one thing. It's actually really healthy to have different types of movements that we enjoy. That is the first step. And then I would say the next step is, can you implement them within your week in a way that
Mm.
feels good to your body? And also, like, if you are a woman who, has a cycle, can you start playing around with the flow of those?
Mm.
And maybe it's, you sign up to a class, and you decide, okay, well, actually I'm going to start signing up each week for this class, so that I make sure that I implement this kind of movement that I like.
Mhm. Mm.
It's really important, and it goes back to the brain again, that we engage in things that are actually pleasurable. Because if you engage in a hard workout that you don't like, that just getting there, you're like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is just not it. Your brain is going to release cortisol in the body, and cortisol
Mm-hmm.
is responsible for inflammation. It can cause potentially a lot of health repercussions, and for most people it can eventually also have the body like retain weight. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're like in a situation where you're like, I need to, I want to get into a mindful fitness journey, I would say that is the first thing. Can you start playing around with the things that you actually enjoy doing without shame? And I know that sounds easier said than done, but that's when somatic healing comes into play, like reprogramming your mind with those mantras, with tapping, with checking in with yourself. And that's why I include all of these in the program, because they really like go hand in hand.
Sorry, my cat's like moving around side to side.
It's
I love
okay.
that. I think that that's super. I want to say valuable is like the word that's coming to mind because it's so important to find something you actually enjoy. If you're forcing yourself to do something, you're not going to keep it up. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying?
We're interrupting this episode to share something close to our hearts, our virtual healing circles. We have been loving them so much and meeting so many of you incredible people through them. Brittany and I are passionate about bringing people together to support one another and heal in community. We felt alone on our paths for so long, and coming together in community has been instrumental to our growth, and we've both seen the importance in it. We aren't meant to do this alone. In unity and vulnerability, we find strength, courage, and support each other on our paths back to ourselves. Our monthly virtual seminars blend discussions, workshops, and practices to nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Whether seeking guidance, healing, or a listening ear, our gatherings offer a safe, inclusive space for people to connect, heal, and grow. Join us on this journey of healing in community. Together, we can heal, grow, and thrive. Register for the next circle using the link in the show notes. We hope to see you there.
And that was a game changer for me in my personal journey was realizing like, oh, I don't have to do this. I don't
Right.
have to be killing myself when I'm going to the gym all the time. Like I can take a step back and my workouts don't need to be rigorous. You know, that was something
Mm-hmm.
else too. Like I feel as a woman, it's like often our bodies do better. And maybe I can't speak for all women, right? But our bodies respond better to things that are less stressful on the body.
Mm.
That's what's helped with me at least, and with movements that like I really enjoy, which help me stay, you know, consistent with
Yeah.
movement. um, I'm curious if you're willing to answer this. What has been the most transformational part of your own personal journey?
Oh, oh, that's such a good question. I would say letting go of control. That has been the most transformative part. I realized that the reason why I fell into an eating disorder, um, since we've been talking about this, but also it has been a pattern with different things in my life, was that I was trying so hard to control my food intake and how I looked and be adherent to like the societal standards of the century, because they change all the
Mhm.
time too. Um, because I was trying to gain control over other things in my life that I couldn't control, that I didn't have control over. Once I realized that that was just me trying to have some sort of say in my life,
Mhm.
I realized, okay, well, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, my body is actually like a gift. It's what holds my soul in this lifetime. And I should be befriending it, not fighting
Mhm.
against it. And I have goosebumps as I say this, but for a long
Mhm.
time, I was stuck in that. I
Mhm.
was trying to gain control. I developed my eating disorder when my, you know, as a coping mechanism for my dad bringing me over to the US at a very young age, and I didn't speak English, and I all I
Mhm.
wanted to do was just like play with my friends. And
Mhm.
I just had a huge cultural shock. It's, you know, I realized it was such a big blessing,
Mhm.
but at the time I felt so out of control in my life that
Right.
I started trying to control
Mhm.
in ways that were actually like destructive to my meat suit that, I
Right.
needed to survive.
Mhm.
So that was a huge turning point for in my healing journey.
I just have chills as you're talking. Yeah, chills now. It's like letting go of control is one of the hardest things we can do as humans. I feel like we hold on and we grip so tightly, like for our lives, because we
Mm,
don't realize that by letting go of that control, that's actually when ease, when things can actually get easier. So I think that's powerful. Everything you just shared just sounds, yeah, very, very powerful. Like I said, I had chills as you were speaking. And one thing that I want to say, I made a video just the other day and it's making me laugh because I was in such like a giddy mood. I was like, I love my body. Because I was really just feeling into gratitude when I was saying my prayers the other morning. And I was like, thank you for this body. And and I already know this, but I was really feeling into it. I was like, holy shit, man. Like, we have been given this gift. We have been given this meat suit, right? Whatever it is you want to call it, we are spirit first. We are spirit first. So to have the opportunity to incarnate in this physical body is such a gift. Like, this body gives you the opportunity to experience this reality. Like, how cool is that? You know what I'm saying? It's like we have the opportunity to touch, to smell, to hear, like all of our senses. And it's such a gift, especially when we remember that we're not human first, we are spirit first. And this is just such a gift. So when you can start viewing your body as a miracle, because really this is a miracle, life is a miracle. Oh, it just like it gives me chills and it just makes me really excited feeling into this. But like, your reality and your life can really, really, really shift. But it can be difficult, right? Because in society we get stuck in these loops, we get stuck in the negative mindset and this and that, and we forget how much of a gift this is. So if you can remind yourself of that, I feel like beautiful things really can just like watch. It's like, watch the beauty, watch, just wait for it, watch the magic, the universe will show you. But with that, I'm curious if there's any final pieces of wisdom or anything at all that you'd like to leave the audience with today.
mm. I would like to just invite the audience, if you're struggling with this, or if there's anyone in your family struggling with this, or in your community, to truly, this might sound like very simple, but truly like be kind to yourself, like step by step, because if you are struggling with this, it's most likely something that you have imprinted in you, that you have grasped maybe at a younger age. And it is possible to actually rewire your brain and sit with those feelings, and clear them from the body, right? And it can be challenging sometimes. And if you feel that you are in an environment that is not constructive to this healing, I know often it's tough to say, okay, just like leave, but maybe see if there's ways that you can distance yourself. If it's in a family dynamic, for example, you know, you can start by putting up some boundaries, with respect, to just maybe like distancing yourself if people start talking about diets or talking negatively about their bodies. If that is triggering to you, don't be afraid to excuse yourself, to say that maybe you don't want to talk about this, whatever is like more resonant to you. But be mindful of who you surround yourself with, because if you're in this healing journey, you definitely need support. And it's not to blame the other people, but we we need to take care of our own well-being, so then we can come back to the community and share what
Mm,
we have learned and share what has
mm,
helped us, if they're open to it, right?
mhm.
And I want to mention this because I personally like being from Italy. I know that this is worldwide, but every single time I go back to Italy and I hang out um, with my family, my extended family, my friends, even in the news and in the TV, I see this imprint of like, body dysmorphia and diets and strict exercise. It's very strong. It's very apparent, and that made sense to me a lot when I came back after doing all of this healing and I saw, okay, this is what I've been exposed this whole time. Makes sense why I've been having these issues. Again, not to blame, but just recognizing. So I would say that is something else to like look at and establishing some healthy boundaries around that if that is your case.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think that's really important. So I appreciate this conversation. I appreciate everything you brought to this conversation today. So thank you just so much for your time. For those listening, I will have your links in the show notes below, so like where they can find you and whatnot. But really quickly, if you just want to share where they can find you.
Sure, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram. That is the platform that where I'm most active at sustainably Lou_Lou. So just like sustainability, but sustainably with a Y underscore Lou Lu. And I am on TikTok too, but I'm really like not. That's not.
Not as active.
I'm still learning TikTok,
Mm.
to be honest. But in case you're a TikTok person, definitely you can add me there. Same handle. And yes, I do host group online circles. I have a beautiful program. We're actually just starting now. I mean, it's March now as we're recording, March 14, but maybe when you're seeing this, we're getting ready for the next round of this online community. But if you also, if you prefer a one-on-one approach, I do offer that as well, both online and in person. Obviously, if you are in Miami, connect with me because I teach classes in person as well here. And so, yeah, I would love to connect to anyone who is feeling called to this work, and just know that you're not alone. You really are not.
Thank you so much, Ludovica. And for those listening, if you feel called, I just feel Ludovica is just such a beautiful soul. So I feel like she's such a great resource. So if you feel called to reach out to her, I definitely would. What's not that you need my permission, but I definitely support that decision. That's the word I'm looking for. But thank you again so much, Ludovica, for your time, for your expertise, and those of you who are listening, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And we will see you next Wednesday. Bye.
As we wrap up today's episode, we want to extend our deepest gratitude for joining us on this journey. Your support does not go unnoticed. If you enjoyed this episode and find value in our conversations, please take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback not only helps us grow, but also allows us to reach more people who can benefit from our community of healing and support. Every review, every rating makes a difference. Thank you for being a part of the Multiple Truths podcast family. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Multiple Truths podcast. Keep speaking your truth and spreading your light. We love you, and we'll talk to you next Wednesday.